Hello and welcome to lecture number 6 in the second IHF live online symposium. My name is Courtney Gahan. I am a part of the IHF media team and I am your moderator for today's session. For those of you who have been joining us all along in this symposium, welcome back. For those of you joining us for the first time, I will briefly run through the translation options we have available. We have French, Spanish, and Arabic translation available if you are joining us on Zoom, and you can find these at the bottom of your screen by clicking the globe icon marked interpretation. If you're watching this on Facebook right now, one of our team is going to share the link to this webinar in the comments, so you can join us here on Zoom if you would like to use the translation function and if you have an account. This second IHF Live Online Symposium falls under the umbrella of the IHF Virtual Academy, introduced approximately 1 year ago to facilitate global online learning and licensing. All of this is part of the IHF Education Centre, which you can find online at ihfeducation.ihf.info. This second IHF Live Online Symposium is focused on development trends of the game, consequences on training methods for coaches, and tactical training for referees, and includes a total of 9 live lectures presented by top handball experts from around the world. Today's lecture is presented by Coach Michael Apelgren, who was 6-time champion in Norway with the club Elverum and is current champion of Sweden with the club Sävehof, as well as Morten Sodal, IHF Playing Rules and Referees Commission Lecturer. Their focus is attacker faults, criteria, and philosophy. What is an attacker fault and what is not? Please note this lecture is being recorded, so you will be able to access it later for on-demand viewing, both on the IHF Education Centre and on our Facebook page. During this lecture, we are going to stop a couple of times for questions, so I do really encourage you to send your questions as soon as they come up so that whenever we stop for questions, we have some to answer ready. So that's the end of the information from me. Gentlemen, welcome. We're ready to begin when you are.
Thank you very much, Courtney. From my side, a warm welcome to this lecture, which I think is really nice to do together with a coach. I'm working with referees. I see a lot of things from the side of the referees and the side of the rule book. Having Michael together with me for this lecture will also give both me, and for sure also you, very important insight in also how the coaches are thinking about this quite essential topic in our game. I will start to share my presentation and then we will see what we are gonna talk about for this 90 minutes. Of course, the topic, like Courtney said, it's attacker faults, a bit about the criteria and the philosophy behind it. Some kind of an agenda for us is we'll first start with the basics. What's written in the rules and how and why is offensive faults also an important part of the game management of the referees. Then we will be a bit more technical. Then we will see a lot of examples about the battle for space, which is a quite essential item when we speak about offensive faults. Who has the space first? Then some trends we don't like. It's provocations, overreactions, and Hollywood actions. That's now then from the defender side, how they all sometimes can do a bit too much to try to help the referees, giving the decision their way. Then we will look at offensive faults connected to the goal area. And then last one, before the ball arrives and after a ball is played. That means with offensive faults without the ball. That's the agenda. I don't know, Michael, if you want to say something before we start getting a bit technical here.
No, I don't have that much to say. I'm just happy to be able to take this chance to maybe inspire somebody. I just want to say before that my ideas is only also the personal ideas as a coach. All coaches are thinking differently. And also that I think that the referees are so much better than the rules than us. But maybe I can turn the sides a little bit so that we can be more interesting when we are looking at these situations.
Yeah, and the really important thing here is that we are that from the referee side in the IHF now we have a very good cooperation with the coaches. It's also really important for us. They help us understand the game so much better because they have a lot more competence than us, and also to pick up trends so we can act and maybe not always react. And then that makes us also from the refereeing side being a bit more in front of the situations.
Yeah, and so many situations in handball who are very, very difficult to read. So it's important that we have a good communication between each other.
There we totally agree. Of course, we're gonna show videos. We're gonna show 21 clips and sequences. They are randomly chosen. They are only selected for educational purposes. That means it doesn't matter which player, which teams or referees who are involved in these clips. It has zero importance. This is just for educational purposes. If you see a team several times or a player several times, it has nothing to do with, yeah, now we have extra focus on this team or this player. No. This is just randomly chosen from my own, Mikael, and the clip bank of the IHF. So if we go to the core, which is the rule book for a defender, or it might also be an attacker. When it comes to physical contact, it is permitted to use the bent arms to make an opponent, or to control an opponent, and to monitor and follow him in this way. Bent arms, that means that that's not 100% stretched arms. It must be bent arms. It's also allowed to use one's trunk, the body, to block the opponent in a struggle for positions. We'll also come a bit into this, but of course, this is an item which involves the pivot player a lot, and the coaches, both Jorge Duenas and Jochen Beppler, have had some very interesting lectures about this earlier in this online seminar. And then what's not permitted, that's more or less the rest. You can't block the opponent with arms, hands, legs, or to use any part of the body to displace him or push him away. And of course, this includes like dangerous use of the elbow, both when it's there already from the beginning or when it comes in motion. And it's not allowed to run into or jump into an opposing player. This is kind of really the basics for what we are doing. How often do you read the rule book, Michael?
Not as much as I should, I think. So it's a lot of times it's important for us to have this kind of discussion on what is right and wrong, because to be honest, I think it's a lot of coaches who are not as sure about the rule book as we sometimes show when we want to win matches. So I can admit that I can be better also.
I think we all can. I have never seen a referee performance that has been perfect in an handball match. We make mistakes all the time. All of us, mistakes is a part of our game, and we have to live with it. So for the decision making, then if we go into the battle for the space, then the question is who has the space first? For the referees then, to freeze the picture at impact. Who are there first? Who moves into who? Is the defender standing there first and the attacker is jumping or running into him? Or is the attacker trying to break into a space and we are a little bit late as defenders and come a bit in from the side, for example? It can never be an offensive fault when the defender moves forward towards the attacker. We have the north-south of the court. Then if the defender moves in, if he moves then forward towards the attacker, can never be an offensive fault, except if the attacker comes in with a knee or elbow or something, of course. But this is this is special situation. Now we speak more general. It's never an offensive fault if the defender is moving or jumping into the situation. That means he might come from the side and try to cover the space. But if he's not there early enough, he's moving or jumping into the situation. He's not standing there. And he can also use the shoulder as the first point of impact. Here you are allowed to block the opponent by using your torso, your body, not the shoulder, as the first point of contact. And of course, it can never be an offensive fault when the defender uses the goal area to get in correct position. That means it doesn't matter if he stands in a correct position outside the goal area line and is jumped into, if he has run through the entire goal area to come into this position. So kind of a guideline, which from the refereeing side is if you see my picture now and you see my two fingers, this is between those fingers, it's the space between the attacker and between the two defenders. The attacker is my finger who tries to go between those two fingers now. Here I'm not able to break through. It's stopped. Then it's a good signal that it's an offensive fault. If I'm able to break through and I'm squeezed by the two defenders, then they haven't been able to cover to close the space early enough, and then it's rarely an attacker's fault. Just also to be very clear about that, offensive faults and attacker's faults, I will say for sure, I will say both. It's the same. Offensive fault and attacker's fault is the same. So then for the referees then to be able to see this, of course, the positioning is essential. You have to have an angle which makes you able to see what's happening between the players. If you see here, you can't see what's happening between behind my hand. But if you have an angle like this, you can see that a player is running into another. Also, when it comes to this overreactions, provocations, Hollywood actions, the reaction from the defending player must kind of reflect the action. It can't be as very small contact and the defender is throwing himself backwards to the floor like he has been shot. it must be a relation between the reaction and the action, unless you must start to think if it's somebody who's trying to help us here. So that means that a small contact shouldn't lead to a massive fall. And of course, it must be enough contact. So a question for referees to ask: if the defender had done the same to the attacker, the same amount of contact, had I whistled a free throw or a 7-meter throw then? And of course, taking decisions is easier when we stand than if we are running. So if we are running behind the game and something happens, we are in motion. It makes it a bit more difficult for us to see and take the right decision. Or then if we are already on the spot, prepared for what's going to happen, and we are standing there watching what's happening. Michael, anything to say about this before we go a bit further?
Oh, I think we will see on the clips, because there's a lot of examples here that I think it will be interesting when we are looking at them, where I think it's a lot of coaches and players who are, for example, we are not that good at knowing that it's not allowed to jump into an offensive fault. It's a lot of times players and coaches, including myself sometimes, complaining about this kind of situation. And I think we cannot be clear enough as referees that it's not allowed to jump, for example. So we will get some examples on this. Yeah.
Of course, it's allowed to jump if you jump straight up to try to block a shot, for example. You jump straight up. You are not jumping towards the attacker, but you are jumping straight up, and the attacker has taken to less distance and is jumping into you. Of course, that's an offensive fault, even if you are jumping. But when you are jumping into something, like Michael said, then it can never be an offensive fault.
Right.
Why is this so important then? Also for the game management, for the totality of the match, if we see the match in a big picture. It's so important to understand the defenders, because we are a physical sport, also physical contact, it's allowed. So it's also so important to understand the defenders in a way that we give them credit when they play according to the rules. If we punish them when they play according to the rules, then they will think that, okay, these referees, they will not give me credit anyway, so then I play foul instead. But if they are given credit, it will encourage them to continue doing so, because hey, it pays off. Hey, I got this call because I was doing the right thing, the attacker was doing the wrong thing, I was playing according to the rules, and the referee whistled an offensive foul, which I deserved. The referees understand the game, and they will continue to do so. Therefore, I will also continue to do so. Also, sometimes, especially if the games are really physical, a lot of interruptions with free throws and so on, it also, offensive faults creates a bit more distance between the players. And for the refereeing, especially for the referees, it might also create a bit clearer situations, which will make it a bit easier for you to make the right call. And if you add all this together, you will have a cleaner and more attractive game, for sure. And this might very well also reduce the number of suspensions in a match, where the defenders understand that here it pays off to play according to the rules. How much do you think about this as a coach, Michael?
I think it's really important, and what I don't think maybe everybody's thinking about is that lately on the highest level we are also preparing for which referees we will have on the matches, and we sometimes know special things about the referees, that some referees is harder on offensive fault. It's that with some referees they are harder on how they are thinking about the play with pivot, and therefore if you as a referee want a cleaner and more attractive game, if you want easier matches by yourself, it's really good if you really think about, as we also think as coaches and players, is that what kind of referee am I? What does the teams say before a match with me, to develop and to get rid of the problems that they are normally using? Because if we as a top team in our league, sometimes we play differently when we have different referees because we have been preparing for how the referees are. So that can be an interesting point of view that not maybe everybody's thinking about.
That was a really interesting insight in the mind of the coach. And when we now will start with the clips and sequences, we will also always we will show the clip, then we will show how we think how we analyze it, how the decision should be. But then also we will have on every clip, it will also be some comments from the eyes of the coach and from the brain of the coach. So now sometimes I will speak, sometimes Michael will speak about the clips. And then like Courtney said in the beginning, if you have questions also, then please ask them. Don't hesitate. So we start with the first one. A series of offensive faults whistled by the referees. Yeah. Here we see several situations where the defender the defender is first in space, or the defenders are first in space. Sometimes it's two, sometimes it's one defender, and the attacker is running into her. You don't see any forward movements here. You don't see any straight or stiff arms against the defender and against the attacker. You see no use of goal area. That means we're standing clearly inside the goal area, using the goal area to get there, nor using the shoulder or any other body parts to make that the first point of contact. They are using their body to close the space for the attacker, which from a coach's point of view, I will presume that you will also think that the attackers here have several other options than running into the defender, Michael.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you go back on this clip, you would for sure see that in all situations, it was a possibility for them to make a better choice. With just one pass, they would find a free shot. So I think this is very good tactical defending. They are reading the situations before they appear. And therefore, I don't have that much more to comment on this kind of clips, because they are defending good and reading the situations before. That is always what you want as a coach with good defending.
Yeah. And here also, the referees becomes predictable. Here it's easy to see the line of the referees, and they make the same, it's more or less the same action, and it's the same reaction, the same decision from the referees every time. And it's also balanced between the teams. So it's a very clear line here in this example. Then we move to the next one. Here also you will see 3 situations. Yeah. Spoke about same action, same reaction in the previous clip. Here it's a line where it says offensive fault for the call from the referees in all situations. But here the criteria is clearly wrong. None of these situations are offensive faults. Defenders are coming from the side and they are approaching the attacker in the way that makes also the shoulder become the first point of impact. So consistent line, but wrong criteria. Michael, this is kind of some situations you probably also see quite often as a coach.
Yeah, and as I said, the only good thing here is that the line is consistent, I think, because it's, it shouldn't be offensive foul. I think it's in a lot of situations of these. As a coach, I don't think it's worth the gambling from the player to try to like fix an offensive foul. So I think it's a lot of times in these situations, I don't think it's worth the risk to try to win an offensive foul. If you take this example that you are showing now, this is a really good situation for us coaches to learn from. Me personally, for sure, will also complain about this if I see my team with the blue shirts here, because I will scream on offensive foul. But if referees were better at explaining, and me also as a coach better explaining that it's not allowed if you jump sideways into this situation to do it to get an offensive foul, then you would think differently. So I think this is really an example of where me also on the like top level is not every time thinking about this with jumping into the situation, because for me first this really looked like it was an offensive fault, so I must be honest and admit that. So from this I learn. I think a lot of coaches can learn. If you go to the next clips, you can really see that. And I would say as a coach to my players that if you are not willing to sacrifice your body totally and to be like really in the way of the defender, I prefer that they go for a free throw. It's not worth for my team to take the risk on that maybe the referees give us something. Maybe it's better in this situation that we take the free throw and then it's no risk. I mean, for sure she will stop her here. But if she goes in this situation, yeah, she can be lucky. The referee can make a bad decision and you get offensive fault. But the price is not that good, because it can also be like penalty in 2 minutes if you're unlucky, and it's not worth the risk. So that is what I'm thinking from a coach point of view in those situations.
So for you, it's kind of risk-reward question.
Yeah, a little bit like that, because you always think about that in your normal game. And therefore you also think like that with the referees. I mean, in this situation also, she can stop her, but she's going more for the offensive fault and doing it in a wrong way. And therefore I think it's why risk that? And if she would do that, then it would be easier also for the referees.
Yeah. And here also the punishments are not very essential in this lecture, but here also it's possible to punish some of these situations when you come in with the shoulder in quite high speed.
Yeah, and that is the risk. I don't think it's worth it to put the referee in the situation where you can you can almost get everything from this. You can win the ball, you can get 2 minutes, you can get penalty. Is it worth it? That's the question the player should ask herself.
Yeah. So again, none of these are offensive faults. So this new tendency using the shoulder, more and more often we see that the shoulder is the first point of impact or first point of contact from the defender, and that can never be offensive fault. Of course, it happens if the defender tries to close the space, but he or she comes too late. The defender has the space first, but turns towards the attacker to protect him or herself, or runs or jumps towards the attacker with the shoulder first. And here also for the referees, the position and observation technique is the key. You must be able to observe the position of the defender also before the contact, not just at the contact, but what happens right before the contact. It's essential. And here also it's cooperation, task distribution. Does it happen, like we will see later in the lecture, if it happens close to the goal area line, it's solely the responsibility of the goal line referee, because only the goal line referee can control if the defender is in or is using the goal area to get into that position. And to move a little bit further then, and this is a kind of guidelines, and I think what's important from the refereeing side is that we also are, we are showing our cards. We are not this secret special group a little bit outside the games. We should be transparent. What I show you now, it's the guidelines given to the referees for these kind of situations in the previous World Championship in Egypt, for the Olympic qualifications, qualification tournaments in March, and it will be the guidelines now in Tokyo in the Olympics. This is the same messages like the referees whistling the Olympics, the top couples, 16 great referee couples in Tokyo, they will get the same, because we must transmit the same information to the referees that we transmit to everybody else, so everybody else knows what are the rules, what are the guidelines, how should we treat these situations. We must be open. That makes us also more predictable. And from the coaching point of view, Mikael, I think you would prefer a predictable referee couple than a referee couple that is not predictable.
Depend if they go for my team.
yeah, I know, but in general, if you are a spectator and sit there and watch a match, I think you would prefer the predictable couple. I certainly hope so. Or I made a bad, or we have made a bad choice of finding a coaching lecture. So the old style here, this is a defender who comes with speed into the attacker from the side. If you close the space, but we come really late and come into him, into the attacker with speed from the side, it might be punishments after the normal criteria for punishments. It's rule A3, which is progressive punishment, starts with a yellow card. Then you have rule 8.4, which is a direct 2-minute suspension, or rule 8.5, which is a direct disqualification. That means a red card. It depends how speedy the situation is, what's the effect of it, where the positions, and of course which body part that is hit. That's the 4 criteria for punishments, but we'll not make a big number of that. if you have a situation where the defender moves or jumps forward into the attacker or ends up with shoulder as first point of contact and with speed, so it's dynamics in the situation, we go for a direct 2 minutes because this might be dangerous. If the defender is not moving forward or something, but turns his or her body sideways to protect himself, so the shoulder becomes the first point of contact, of course, it also depends on the dynamics of the contact. It can be a really ugly situation, especially if this shoulder hits if the shoulder hits very high on the attacker. If it hits the attacker in the throat face region, it might also be a red card in some situations. Or it might be just a normal free throw, or advantage and goal, which is always the best solution when we can play the advantage. But if the defender comes from the side, and of course he or she is able to get some, but not enough of the body in front of the attacker. If you are able to cover 20% of the space when you make contact with the attacker, that's not enough. Of course, it's not enough. You must cover much more for it to be an offensive foul. And then of course, you try. The situation doesn't get any ugly at all, but then it's a throw which corresponds to the situation. It might be a free throw or a 7-meter, or if we are lucky, the attacker score, and then we just whistle a goal and everybody's happy. So we move a bit forward to see some examples on this. Here it's from the final in Egypt between Denmark and Sweden. Next clip. And we just have to wait a little bit for the replay. And here we see a clear example of that the attacker who's trying to break through is hit by the #1 defender. He's trying to close the space, but he's moving into the attacker, forward towards the attacker. And then you see that the shoulder is the first point of contact. And of course, this can never be an attacker's fault. And also here, this dynamics in the situation is also high enough for it to justify a punishment. How do you see this situation from a coaching point of view, Mikael?
The first thing I was thinking when I was seeing, if you go back, is that this is a very typical situation in 5-1, that they succeed of passing behind the center. The most important thing is that I get a little bit irritated when I see this situation, because I think the wing defender here is in a bad tactical spot. He shouldn't be this low from a coach point of view, and therefore he is in problem when the situation appears. So what I think that he thinks is that let's take a chance and see if the referee is giving me something. If he would have a better position from the beginning, he would come into this situation differently. But now when he's staying so low, he's staying almost on the line, which is not that smart. He should not get awarded. So that is what I think also is wrong from a tactical point of view, that he get awarded here because he is taking like a last chance on, let's go into that situation and try to play an offensive fault. That's probably what he's thinking. Yeah, as you were saying, it shouldn't be that. So it's sad that he gets something here.
Here we see that it's a shoulder arm, which is the first point of contact. Here it's enough space between number 24 and 28, and number 24 is too late to close the space in this situation.
Yeah, and if he was earlier, he wouldn't go to the situation like this. If he was earlier on a higher position in the defense, and then I'm talking about not standing on 6 meters. If he would standing on 6.5, 7, then he will be faster into the situation, because you can see that the attacker is down with his head, so he can't see the defender so good. So if he just would have done it better from the beginning, maybe he would have solved it anyway. But yeah, that is my ideas about it from a tactical point of view.
Next one, here was a situation between the number 1 and number 2 defender. Here we will have a situation on the wing. And this is really good defending. Wing player receives the ball, tries to break through. Wing defender comes into the right position without using the goal area. He has the space first and is jumped into. This is an offensive fault. And I can also show you, if I show you the replay here. The ball is played, he moves. Here is a long step. If this had been the contact, it would be for sure have been a 7 meter and a 2-minute suspension. Oh, sorry. But now he is able to get his entire body in front of him, and the attacker jumps into the defender. Clear offensive fault for me. I don't know about the coach, but I think we agree, Michael.
I really agree. I think this is really good defending, and I'm also mixed about that. It's really bad by the attacker as well. But the thing that is so important is that the referees must understand how difficult this is for the defender to move his feet so good and to be positioned in that good when the wing is jumping in. That he don't get paid for this, yeah, that hurts coaching heart. So it should really give him something for that, because he is really defending good here.
Yeah, here it's kind of an example. Also, give the defenders credit when they play according to the rules. Here is a really good action from the defender. Next one, we will have 2 situations. Sorry, I had to kill the sound. Yeah, and here we also see a bit similar to the situation from the World Championship final. We have 2 situations with quite wide breakthroughs. In both situations, the defender is trying to close the space, and they are not using the goal area. This is not the point here. But in neither of these situations, the defender is able to close the space before the impact. Therefore, he comes then moving/jumping into the situation, making the shoulder the first point of contact. That means he's too late. And here, because of the dynamics, the speed in the situations are quite high. They are also both possible to punishment. To punish, so punishment is possible in both situations here. Comments, Michael?
Yeah, I think this is something that coaches and especially players sometimes don't think about so much, because it's so many times it seems like players on these situations believe that just because they put their arms up in the air, it doesn't matter that when your body is still moving into the situation in a dangerous way. It's like, yeah, I'm innocent, I'm having the arm up, and then it shouldn't, it could be an offensive fault, and it shouldn't be anything. I don't think that those players here in this situation know that they are really risking 2 minutes here. I think that maybe they can fool the referees on an offensive fault, they are thinking, but they don't in a tactical way thinking about the risk that they maybe get punishment because of that it could be, or in this situation it's a little bit dangerous with players coming with high speed and they are like moving into the situation with the body continuing into the situation. So there we must be better, both as referee and as coaches, to explain why they don't get paid for this, because a lot of players seem to believe that it's not a punishment.
Yeah, and if you see the legs of the defender here, also he has kind of stopped to move and just use his upper body then to try to stop the attacker.
Yeah, and it's so typical, like you see on the first clip, where you see the defender staying to the referee like, but I was staying like this. And I mean, it doesn't help if you were staying like this if your body moves into a jumping player. But it's very typical that players do this, and I mean, then we must be better to explain for the players that, yeah, you can stay with the arms like that, but what matters is how you enter the situations.
Next one, it's also a breakthrough situation. Here also the attacker tells the referees that they didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, and that is exactly what you should get paid for. I mean,
Yep.
Here he's staying there in a really good way, moving his feet, and that is really important that the referees give this to the players, because otherwise they will have all these Hollywood situations. Here he's just staying there, and if you don't get paid for this, then you will have players who screams or throw themselves on the floor harder. So it's important that when you defend this good, you should get paid for this.
Yeah, and this is of course a clear offensive fault. Wing makes a feint with his body without the ball and tries to break through. The number 2 defender moves sideways, and he is exactly in time. He hasn't very good time, but he is in time. He's not arriving too late, and therefore the attacker jumps into him. And of course, this is some really important situations that we give credit. Not so easy for the referees to see in full speed, probably, but it's important that we get these calls also right. Like every call, of course, but here we can really also show this defender, okay, here you played really well according to the rules and you got the ball. So then he will probably continue to do so. Next, more or less same, but with a clear difference here between the number 1 and number 2 defender again. Advantage and goal as the decision from the referees. Which is also a very good decision, because like you've seen here, the defender moves/jumps into the situation from the side, doesn't create any big effect, so this is nothing for punishment, of course, but it's for sure no offensive fault, because he's not able to close enough of the space in front of him, and therefore the shoulder part also becomes the first point of contact. Michael, would you have protested against the goal and offensive fault, or would you have been protesting as a coach for the defending team here?
Yeah, that's maybe possible, but I think in this case, first of all, I would like to say that this is very typical in Scandinavia. A lot of teams in Scandinavia is playing with tight defense in the middle, like staying really tight together with the number 3 defenders and number 2 defenders, and they are a lot of times playing with the wings who jumps into these situations. And so a lot of times, both in Sweden and Norway, it's like the players don't know that this is not allowed. And I think if, like I was saying before, if we are better at explaining that it's not okay to jump into the situation, then probably these kind of players won't complain so much about it as they do now. So there we can improve something. What is really good here tactically by the defender, the attacker, is that when he is jumping sideways, when he's coming in these situations between 1 and 2, it's so much more difficult to reach for the wing defender. If he jumps more towards the goal, maybe the Swedish defender will reach here. But now when he's jumping a little bit sideways, then the wing defender just has one chance and is to do like this kind of defending. So I think it was really tactical, good move by the attacker here.
Yeah. So you say that the attacker is jumping sideways away from the defender and also into the open space.
Yeah, and a little bit, I mean, sideways, you can't be that black or white, but what I mean is that he's not, if he's jumping more towards the goal, probably he would have maybe get an offensive foul in this situation. But because what is difficult when you come as right back here is, with all the speed that you have, is to like be strong enough in your legs to do this jump a little bit sideways. So that is what I'm talking about here. And when he's doing that, he puts the defender in problems, and therefore I think it's a good tactical small detail that he's doing here.
Yeah, and like already said, this is no offensive fault because it's the shoulder is the first point of contact. The attacker is first in space. Now we also got a valuable insight of some tactical / technical elements also made by the attacker here, which makes it even more difficult for the defender to make this into an offensive fault situation. So here, good decision by the referees. It's a goal, nothing more. Then we go into the next item, which is a bit bigger potato, or a bigger and bigger potato. It's the provocations and overreactions. With a provocation, I mean that you, in an illegal way, try to create an offensive foul. And with an overreaction, it means that you kind of, you make the foul or make the contact look bigger than it really was. And this comes maybe from that now more and more players and also, of course, coaches understands that the effect is a part of the decision-making criteria for the referees. It's together with the dynamics, with the position and the body part that is hit, especially when it comes to punishments. Of course, you can then say that, okay, then you just whistle over the big, what you see is the reaction of the situation and not what the situation is really is. And this we don't want. We want to take decisions based on all criteria. And that means that the effect alone cannot be deciding. It must correspond to what we see else in the situation or before we see the effect of the situation. Of course, therefore some try to make the effect as big as possible if it gains them. And to stop this, referees, we must have good enough position and focus to see what is really happening. So we don't take decisions just based on the effect of the situation. And to make this provocations, overreactions, Hollywood actions to disappear, we must have personality and courage to do so. then we must take some strong decisions, because this is kind of also the beauty of our sport. That we can say that some in football we can see that some simulations, Hollywood is it clearly happens. In our sport, it's not so much happening at the moment, but we must stop it before it becomes a very big potato, because this kills the beauty of our sport. And this is also, as the shoulder defending, so also clear messages for the top referees who are whistling the top events, also the Olympics, because they have seen the same slides like you see here. I have shown these slides also to them. So our guidelines then is if it's a provocation, if it's not very clear, then the referees should use their personalities and clear body language to tell the defender to stop this. If it's a provocation and it's clear and or continued, then we go for a progressive punishment, starting with the yellow card, giving a yellow card with clear body language and explanation why you give it. But if and then the next time the player, if the player doesn't listen and do the same, of course, then it's the progressive punishments. It's not the yellow card anymore, but then it's a 2 minutes, because it's a progressive punishment. But then if you have clear Hollywood actions where it's almost no or no contact, and the defender just jumps backwards, then we go direct 2 minutes. So it's a provocation versus Hollywood. Clear Hollywood is direct 2 minute suspension. And this will also be the line in Tokyo. What do you think about, as a coach, generally about this? Do you see the same trends?
Yeah, of course, this is important for our sport to really think about, because I think you don't see that much Hollywood football style in handball, like people lying on the floor too long and having that much pain as football players. But you see too much lately handball situation where you try to add an effect to situations that is not really true. People are falling harder on the floor than they should. Players are sometimes, for example, with these offensive fouls, falling harder and screaming than that is normal. So that is important that we are very clear that we want to take away from our sport.
Yeah, and here we can see some examples also. This is 3 situations in the same match. And again, teams, players, not important. Absolutely not important. And this could have been a Norwegian player also. This could happen in Sweden. It can happen in Norway. It can happen everywhere.
Yeah, and here you can see that it's this is those kind of situation which makes coaches a little bit irritated, that sometimes it is some special players who are good at using this and playing tactically on trying to fool the referees a little bit. And therefore, if the referees want to earn the respect from the players and coaches, it's really important that they show that they are prepared on this, because for sure the teams and the coaches know about this behavior, because this is, like I said before we started everything, this is a typical thing that you prepare before that. Be a little bit aware of that this guy is trying to fool you on fixing offensive faults. And when you get the feeling on that the referees are not prepared, I'm not saying this, and this is just an example, that this situation was exactly like that, but I just wanted to put and talk about the example, that it's so important. If you want to earn the respect as a referee, you must show with all your body language, with all your understanding of the game, that you see the first situation, that you don't get surprised by it, because there are some players who do this more than others.
Yeah, and here if we go through, here we have the first one, which is a small contact, which the defender is making them, he's making more out of it. This is for us, it's a free throw. Go in here and show the defender that you have to stop it.
Yeah, and you
use
see
your
on the
personality.
that he's staying still.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost no contact. But then, if you see, it's the same player, because he was rewarded, therefore he continues. Here, it's no contact at all, almost. He's just falling backwards. This is for direct 2 minutes. This is clear Hollywood action. And here, the last one. See again how he moves forward into the attacker and then throws himself backwards. And the decision, of course, nice advantage, 7 meter, fully correct. And then a punishment with clear information from the referees. This is a progressive punishment, but it's in the second half. So therefore, a progressive punishment also is a 2-minute suspension. That this is not allowed, for sure, never offensive foul. This is something we need to stop. We can skip number 9, it's more or less the same. And we can play number 10. Here also same things that are happening. From a refereeing point of view, we see that the defender is in a good position, but before the contact, she has already started to fall backwards. So for us, this is not an offensive fault. This is a progressive punishment to tell the defender that you don't need to help us. We don't want this in our sport. Comments, Mikael?
I think in this situation, she is doing that, and that I don't think that maybe referees is thinking about. I think she is falling because she also gets the feeling of that, whoa, I won't reach, but I know she's going there. So she's like really close of getting it perfectly. But when she gets the feeling that, okay, she's a little bit too much away from me reaching perfectly, therefore, yeah, I will try to fall. So I think also it's not necessary for her to take this risk, because if she were reading the game better from the beginning, if you see on this clip, if she lets the player go to her other side, she has all the help in the world from the other defender. So if she would only go harder on closing this side where she wants to go, she wouldn't need to do this. But I think, and referees can think about that sometimes you throw yourself like this behind just because you feel that I'm not really reaching. So therefore, I think she does like she does.
So free throw for attacking team and progressive punishment of the defender in this situation. We can skip also number 11, which is a bit different. So we can open for some questions. Do you have some questions, Courtney?
Yes. So somebody asked about when the attacker leads with the shoulder. This person asked why is this whistled as an attacker fault? But I think you just said before that it's not always. So
no, it's when the shoulder is the first point of contact, it means that you it's one of two things that has happened then. One is that you arrived too late into the space, or you are arriving too late, and therefore the first part of your body that's arriving in the space is the shoulder. It can never be an attacker's fault. Or you are in the right. I turn my shoulder towards the attacker instead. That can never be an attacker's fault. So, so if the shoulder is the first point of contact from the defender, it can never be attacker's fault.
Okay, we have a couple of questions about if a defender is already touching 6 meters.
Yeah, we about the goal area, we will come to that. It will be the next year.
Okay, then we can move on.
Then we move on. Because then we are coming to what Courtney just said. She had some questions about which are situations close to the goal area. Questions to ask: where was the place of the impact? Was it outside the goal area? Was it clearly inside the goal area? Or this, I know that the coaches love this word, the gray zone. And what is the gray zone? I will explain a bit later. So be a bit patient, Michael and all the other coaches here. You will get an explanation. I will not guarantee that you will agree. So how to see this? How did the defenders got to their position? How did they get to their position? Sorry, it's a bad, it's a wrong word for me there in the text. I take full responsibility. Did the defender use the goal area? Run through the goal area? Take that shortcut to get in a correct position outside the goal area? Then how was the space closed? Like we have seen now, is it jumping or coming too late into the situation? And like I also explained in the beginning here, it's a potential help. Was the attacker able to break through change of direction? Or was it a change of direction? If you have a change of direction, like you've seen in some clips, you come in with the shoulder a bit too late, then the attacker who's then hit when he or she is in the air, then the change of direction becomes quite evident. But referees, only the goal line referee can control this. And it means that he or she must have the view in the situation before the impact. If you come after the impact, everything will look like clearly inside. And what is clearly inside? In the rules, actually, it's written about the goal area. That when a court player enters the goal area, decision should be as follows. That's rule 6.2, and point C there concerns our topic here. That's a 7-meter throw when a court player of the defending team enters the goal area, and because of this destroys a clear chance of scoring. This is a normal criteria for a 7-meter. But the next sentence is also very important, and I know that both coaches, referees also sometimes, players, TV experts, TV commentators, media, spectators, they don't know that this second sentence exists. And that is, for purpose of this rule, the concept entering the goal area does not mean just touching the goal area line, but clearly stepping into the goal area. And you see this this drawing where you have just touching the line. Then you on the two first one to the left-hand side, of course, the second from the left is a bit more clear, also clear, but then also this is just touching the line, also gray zone. And then when the entire foot is inside, like you see on the picture to the right, or the foot to the right, then of course this is clearly inside, and the second one from the right is also very, very close to being clearly inside. So here, the green ones are touching the line, they are not clearly inside. Here, the red ones, you see that one or both feet are clearly inside the goal area. So if you stand there, you have been standing there for 10 seconds, have the space first, and the attacker jumps into you. In these positions, it's offensive false in the two green ones, and the two red ones, it's a 7-meter if the attacker is not able to score. It might happen that something with the gray zone in the next period. When the new rules will come, it might be a different interpretation of this, because I know what Michael will say, that okay, the defender is allowed to touch the goal area line, but if the attacker with the ball is touching the goal area line with 1 millimeter and scores a beautiful goal, the goal is still cancelled because of his stepping on the goal area line. Right, Michael?
Yeah, the coaches and me also are never fan of gray zone, but I understand the problem for the referees also, and how difficult this is, and yeah, sometimes we just must buy the rules and just be patient about it.
Yeah. Can show number 12, which is a very clear situation. Here we actually also have a little bit of both. Just we'll have a replay. And of course, this is never an offensive foul. The attacker, she's able to break through between the two defenders, especially the number 2 defender, not the outer defender, but the one next to her is arriving quite late, and therefore he moves or runs into her from the side. And you also see, if we go back and see the clip or the replay, if we are here, you see that the number 1 defender has her foot clearly inside the goal area, and the number 2 defender comes clearly from the side into a player who's in the air, and therefore we also have then here a 2-minute suspension. So this is 7 meter and 2-minute suspension. And here I don't expect big protests from the coach, Michael.
No, it's nice that also the referees and coaches agree sometimes.
Sometimes we do. Also a new one where I don't think we will disagree that much. Here we also see that the attacker is trying to break through, but the defender has closed the space, not using the goal area. It's not to come into this position. It's not clearly inside that impact. It's not using the shoulder. This just shows how important it is for us as from the refereeing side that we are able to see what's happening before the impact. Here, it's not clearly inside. It's not touching the goal area line at impact. It's not doing anything wrong. Attacker just jumps into him. But if we look at, if our view comes into the situation now, it will look like the defender has been clearly inside. So here, referees look into the breakthrough situation before contact to observe the movements and the position of the defender. Here also, I don't expect a big protest, Michael.
Oh, of course, it's an offensive fault, but I think and what I was thinking about the situation is that it's so important that players get paid on what he's doing here. He's just staying there. If you don't want players to overplay the situations, if you don't want players to move into the situation, you must award players who do like this. He's playing in a very fair play way here, just staying there. Otherwise, sometimes you maybe sometimes go towards the attacker because you want the impact to look bigger. Here he's just staying there, and I think it's also one of the things that maybe the referee is thinking about, that it's not that clear because he's not, as I was saying before, just staying there. So yeah, important that we award this kind of defending.
Next one also we'll see a bit different. Oh, now it stopped, sorry. It will take a little bit of time before the replay replay comes, then you will see the movements of the defender very clear. Here, moves towards the goal area, through the goal area here, 1 foot clearly inside. Then might be in okay position when the impact comes, but she has been moving through the goal area to get into this position. So the wing receiving ball, but in at her attempt to break through, she's running into the defender, but the defender, who's not clearly inside at impact, nor stopping her by using a long step, but she arrives in this position after clearly been using the goal area to get there. Therefore, never offensive foul. This is 7 meter. And also, if this kind of use of goal area is repeated, it should also be punished.
This has been used a lot tactically lately. I think it's a lot of players who run inside the area like this to close the angle, not only to try to get an offensive foul with them, it's also that they try to make the angle smaller. So it's very important that we improve on that as referees, that it's not something, because if it's good to defend like this, then me as a coach and all the other coaches will say, run inside the area a little bit, because then you can close the angle better. So it's important we take that away.
And then we can skip 15 because this is also more of the same. It's the same like the previous one. We can just watch it. Look at the outer defender number 99 in the red team here, how he uses the goal area to get into the position where he makes contact with the yellow wing.
Yes, and don't underestimate as a referee that the defender knows exactly what he's doing. He knows that he's running a little bit inside. He knows where the line is. He's just taking a chance to close the angle. And then you play innocent after. I mean, in this situation now, he knows that, okay, let's have a chance. This is a big situation. Let's run there. Maybe the referee won't see it. That is why a lot of times wing defenders are thinking.
Yeah, and because of this, then you also have a foot on foot, and then this is also for punishment, might be. If it's a foot on foot, it was the pictures are a bit difficult to see. Take the last one in this sequence. There, this is not clearly inside. It's one heel on the line, which you can discuss if the also to make it very difficult. Is the heel in the air at impact? No, it might be not. But no matter what, this is not enough for saying that the defender is clearly inside. That attacker runs into the defender. If defender has the space first, not doing anything, no shoulder, no arms, nothing. And of course, we can discuss about if your heel is on the line at impact, which it probably is, but it doesn't matter. Clearly, this is gray zone, and therefore no 7 meter. And again, really important that we see the position and the movement of the defender before impact. And then I know that you will probably think a bit different about this situation, Michael.
Yeah, as I was saying before, I personally don't like the gray zone talk, but I mean, this situation is a good one to explain how difficult it is to be a referee about this, because I mean, in this situation, it's extremely hard if you get the penalty against you when you're defending this good, just because you're touching the line a little bit. And therefore, I think it's in this situation, I can understand the gray zone thinking, because she's not winning on touching the line. She's only losing on it if it would be a penalty. So if you get an advantage of being inside, I understand it more, but here it's just a matter of small details, and therefore if she's defending this good, maybe she should get an offensive fault, as you all think. And also for our game, that it's not penalty on everything. This maybe can make me understand the gray zone talk a little bit, at least.
Then we go a little bit further. If it's no contact, then we see, or more and more often see situations where especially the wing defender are moving towards the attacker, but ends up in the goal area after a contact with, for example, a side back. Happens often in 2-against-1 situations where the attacker is trying to break through between the two outer defenders, of course. But also it might happen if the attacker is not trying to break through, but just prevent that he or she is trying to break through, to make the outer attacker close that space and then play the ball to the wing. So if the defender ends up in the goal area, it is her or his responsibility after he or she has made a foul because she has moved into the attacker. That means if this defender ends up in the goal area and the position is between the shooter and the goal or goalkeeper, the guideline for this situation is that it should be a 7 meter, even if it's no contact between the defender and the shooter. I will show you 2 examples. Here you can see the number 1 defender. Here, space between the number 2 and number 1 defender. Here, almost 2-against-1. The outer defender decides to close that gap, moving into the attacker. Therefore, because of this contact, falls back. And here, the attacker has to jump over her to shoot. And this is enough for a 7 meter. Here, defender clearly in goal area between the shooter and the goalkeeper. So you see here on the explanation slide, it's a standard situation for the referees. When the defender is lying in the goal area after a situation where he or she is responsible for and ends up between the shooter and the goalkeeper, and therefore the disturbance is considered that big that it's a loss of a clear chance of scoring if the attacker doesn't score, of course. Therefore we have a 7 meter. And here I think we very much agree, and we can, Mikael, and we can take the next one, because then you can also speak a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, the thing with this kind of situation is that I don't think that there are a lot of players who don't know this, that it's the responsibility of the defender. And it's really increasing lately that you can see on this clip how this guy is falling. He knows exactly where he's falling. It's not an accident. You can see he's pushing with his legs to be exactly where he's jumping. And it's so many times players say to the referees after this kind of situation, but what should I do? It's because of the attacker I end up in that situation. It was impossible. And then it's really good if the referees are good at explaining that, but it's your responsibility. You can't be away in the way of the wing defender shooting his free shot, because then we will probably not see this many defenders fall exactly there. I don't believe that it's so many falling in this direction on accident. It's too many times, and I've seen on my own, and I also been a wing defender, so I know sometimes I were falling. And I know that this will make the shot more difficult for the wing. So it's important that if you just are good at explaining, responsibility is on the defender, I think we will end up seeing this behavior.
And here situation is a little bit complicated, because here we see they are trying to close the space, are not able to, running into the attacker, therefore ends up in the goal area. If we see really here, the attacker is stepping on the line. If the referees thinks that this is not influenced in any way by the movement or the position of the defender, then of course it's a goalkeeper throw. Here, the court referee, very special situation, the court referee is whistling the 7 meter, because the two players who are in the goal area, the red player is in the goal area because of a foul of the attack of the defender, so he's not responsible. The yellow player, the defender, is in the goal area because of a foul made by himself. But they are laying in front of the view of the goal line referee, so he can't see that the attacker is stepping on the line here. So therefore, it's a good, really good call for me. It's a 7 meter. And the questions about the goal area, Courtney, because we have a very short topic left. That's fouls without the ball.
There's nothing specific about the goal area, so we can continue and do a few general questions at the end.
Yeah, we'll just have 3. I think we'll only show 2 more clips, and then we'll open for all questions. Before the ball arrives, it's a struggle for the space in the pivot area. Who is doing what and when? For the referees here, who is making the first foul? And then we'll not speak so much about blocking, because this is well covered by the lecture of Jorge Duenas and Jochen Bepler. So we have seen a trend that the pivot uses one arm to catch the ball and one arm to hold the defender away from him or her. And then the question is how much to accept, because if you have big pivot players inside a very limited amount of square meters, it will be physical contact. But it's also a wish that we try to reduce it. That we make the battle around the pivot player, we can make it a battle for position, of course, but we can't make it a war. It's not survival of the fittest inside there, who's the right line. We have to control, use our personality, and take decisions to make it as clean as possible and according to rules. So we need more decisions, both for the attackers and for the defenders. And it's very important, it must be a balance. The defenders cannot be allowed to do what they want against the attacker, and then we whistle an illegal block for a very small potato. Cannot be this way. And then also after the ball is played, for example, from a backcourt player who's in transition of being a second pivot, for example, what happens after a ball has left the arm of the thrower? What does the attacker do then? And it's not only concerning shooting these situations where the referees can look if the defender is making or if it comes some push or making another foul after a ball has left the hand of the shooter, but also the attacker can be running into defenders and by so creating space, bigger space for the teammates. And this, of course, we want to stop before the defenders think that an overreaction, that they have to overplay, or they have to overplay, make the effect of this contact bigger than it really is. We have to stop it before this comes into that. So here, if you look here at the pivot, this one is really simple. Look at the red pivot. If you see the picture, this is clear. Of course, very clear. He's about to receive the ball with the defender behind him, also behind him. He's not in a very good position, the defender, to stop him. But to create space for himself, he's using his left arm to keep the defender away. The defender is not doing anything wrong here. It's the attacker who is holding him. It must be spotted by the goal line referee, who should control this situation. And here also Michael has written in his comments, it's no comments on this one. This is an offensive foul. It's not a free throw for the attacker. Next one, a little bit more complicated. Then I do my explanation first, and then Michael can make his. Here, the defender is not in the ideal position, no. But the pivot is about to receive the ball with the defender behind him, but he's using his left arm to hold the defender away. You also see his feet are very wide apart, and his balance point seems to be on his heels. So he's depending that the defender is standing in this position, unless he will fall into the goal area. So this is 3 good reasons for an offensive foul in this situation: the arm, the position with the feet, the width of his feet, and the balance point. So again, it's important to spot who's making the first mistake and react to this. And then I will just show a still picture here. Here, you can see it. If you look at the screen now, you can see the left arm is holding the shirt of the defender. The feet are very wide apart. He's extending his body, and the balance point is towards the defender. Then, Michael, you can come with your analysis of this situation, which you can also see on the screen.
It's a very complex situation, because I understand it's an offensive fault just because of the mistake, what he's doing with his arm, that he's pulling the shirt. But if you take that away in the example, I would like to, and I think a lot of coaches also, we don't want the teams who play tactically bad to get paid. And in this way, and in this situation, Slovenia is playing very smart. They are fooling Belarus here with a good attacking play, with fooling them with a wing here, and Bombak is not passing to him, and then he's going inside the middle, and they are closing Bombak, and they play to the pivot with the defender on the wrong side. And I think a lot of coaches like when you don't get paid when you play tactically bad, which we think a lot of times is when a weak defender is staying behind a strong pivot. And that a lot of times, I think it's something that the referees can be better at. I understand all this with wide legs and all that, but don't underestimate that our strongest players are the pivots. They are the best. When we see them in the gym in the preseason, that's the strongest guys we have. Therefore, theoretically, it's not smart tactically if you play alone, 1 against 1, and stay on the wrong side against the other team's strongest player. Therefore, I think they should get paid, Belarus, if they play with 2 players here, for example. The number 74 go there and close. But now when they only play 1 against 1, in a coach point of view, we would like that he get paid. So in that way, I would never complain if we would get a penalty against us if I were the Belarusian coach here. I see all the details that you referees are thinking about this, but a lot of times we don't want weak defenders to stay on the wrong side of the pivot. And therefore, also it's good if referees understand that this is something that the teams a lot search for. And therefore, if you don't play smarter, don't award them. That is a coach point of view thinking in this situation.
here the recommendation for the referees is of course an offensive foul, and try to whistle it as early as possible when you see this with the arms, because it's very here you can start to see it. Here you can start to whistle it, but if you whistle it when the player is in the air, ready to shoot, also with a defender inside the goal area, it will be very, very difficult to sell an offensive foul. So the decision must come as early as possible when you see the first foul.
Yeah, that we really can buy. If he's winning his position because of that, then it's easier for us to accept that, okay, that was a wrong block. But when the second he has the ball, then for sure coaches will complain about this situation.
And then we take the last one, which is a quite clear one, but this is what happens after the ball has been played. And here you see it very clear. The attacker who has played the ball now starts running, number 86, I think, into the defender number 3. Take him away, create space for the shooter, number 10. Also, the pivot player here helps his teammate, his shooter, by holding the shirt clearly of the defender, so he is not able to close the space and jump high enough to block the shot of number 10. So this, from the refereeing side, it's a clear offensive foul. And then again, it's especially important that the referees also control the areas away from the ball, because they can have big influence on the final result of the play. Michael, your comments about this one?
I think this kind of situation is problematic the last couple of years, because a lot of teams, and it's not the best example because it's more in the normal when you're playing with crosses, but a lot of playmakers run the second defenders down. And what I always need to say to my players is that if you play this the fair play way, like the second defender is doing here, a lot of time the referees don't give you anything. And therefore it's so important that the referees are better at seeing when playmakers are giving the cross and then running the second defender down, as I was saying before. Because if you are doing like the Argentinian player here, just go some small steps with the one who makes the cross, then you normally don't get anything for it. And then that is in one way the fair play style, because he's just staying there, the playmaker run him down and takes him with him, and then he can have a free shot. So I think it's something that we really can improve, that we don't award this, because otherwise, and me personally with teams, when we play against this kind of playmakers, sometimes we need to overplay it with our second defender, because otherwise we have a feeling of that we don't get anything. And that we should never go there and get there with rules that coaches feel like, okay, if we don't overplay it, they will just shoot over us. So I think it's important that we start to understand a little bit better about these crosses when playmakers run down second defenders.
Yeah, and here just to emphasize that it's 2 offensive fouls here.
Yeah, and the other situation
is the first one.
Yeah, and that is the most interesting in a tactical way from coaches. The other ones is what it is. I mean, players who take the shirt, it's not so much to say about. It's nothing that we show in our video room with players and coaches. But with this is a very important topic with the one who run down second defenders, because it's very much tactically the last couple of years.
Yeah, Then we are finished with our examples, and yeah, we are Scandinavian, so we like to speak a bit, so we are a little bit over time, but it's not a problem because it's no lecture coming after us. But Courtney, questions, please.
Okay, so you've spoken a bit about how to award the defenders when they should be, but somebody asked, well, what about the attackers? Especially in some games where there are a lot of offensive fouls from one particular team. For example, at a World Championship where we maybe have some very different levels in the teams. What kind of solution is there to just generally try to make the game a bit nicer from the attacker's side there?
Yeah, it depends. An attack like a free throw. This is also attackers' faults they are corresponding to the free throw line. So if you allow very little contact from the defenders before you whistle a free throw, or too little contact, then you must allow too little also a lot very little contact for the contact when with an attacker making contact with a defender. That means that a general advice here is that you which is reasonable and suits the game to make the game flow as good as possible, because we don't want the games where the rhythm of the game are unnecessarily disturbed by unnecessarily calls from the referees. It's more or less. So it's about where you put the line, and you must feel the match, where to put the line exactly to manage this match as good as possible.
Okay, Michael, we have one for you. It's a bit of a funny question. Somebody asked, why do so many coaches object to the referee decisions? Do you think it is a lack of understanding of the rules, or is there something else at play here?
It's a little bit of both. Of course, we are staying there and our job is to do everything to make our team win. And what is maybe the biggest problem in our sports is that it's so much things that are gray zone. And therefore, it's so small things who makes you win or lose. So in one way, it's a little bit of acting from us coaches. Sometimes we really know that it was a good call, but we are anyway trying to act that it was a bad call because we want our team to get advantage in the end, for example. But sometimes I really think, and that's one of the reasons I'm here, that I think we coaches need to be better at learning the rules. And I think on really high level, I have been coaching on Champions League courts and sometimes thinking that, but honestly, don't you know the rules? And I don't know if it's acting or not, but it's for sure it's a little bit of both.
Okay, that's actually all the questions, so we can then wrap up. I think you explained everything very well then. So thank you, both of you. This was very informative. And I will say goodbye to everyone. So we are back for the next lecture tomorrow, Saturday, the 3rd of July at 2 p.m. Central European Summer Time. And that is with Mats Olsen, IHF Commission of Coaching and Methods member and goalkeeper coach at the Norwegian Handball Federation, among many others. And he is going to be talking about tendencies in goalkeeping, tactical behavior in breakthrough situations. So that's all for today. Thank you so much to our lecturers, and thank you to everyone for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.